Tonight, when the sun goes down, you are going to feel it. Not panic, not terror, just a small, quiet pull at the back of your mind that says something is wrong. You will reach for the light switch without thinking, and the feeling will disappear in an instant, so fast that you will forget it ever happened. But it happened. It always happens. And the reason it happens is one of the strangest stories in the entire history of the human species. Your brain is not a modern brain. Not really. Underneath the part of you that checks your phone and orders food and plans your weekend, there is something much older. Something that has been running silently in the background for 2 million years. And that ancient part of your brain has never, not once, stopped being afraid of the dark. The question is, why? Because darkness itself is not dangerous. A dark room cannot hurt you. A dark street, on its own, is just a street with the lights off. You know this. The rational part of your brain knows this completely. And yet, the feeling comes anyway, at every time. That gap between what you know and what you feel is the most important gap in human psychology. And it opens up every single night. To understand it, you have to go back. Not decades, not centuries. You have to go back to a world before fire was controlled, before walls existed, before there was anything between you and the night. Imagine you are a small, slow primate living on the African savanna roughly 2 million years ago. You have no claws, no fangs. You cannot outrun a leopard. You cannot overpower a hyena. Your only real advantage over every predator sharing your landscape is your mind. And your mind, right now, is telling you one thing. When the sun goes down, stay still. Because the animals that hunted your ancestors were not random. They were specialized. Leopards, lions, and hyenas are what biologists call crepuscular and nocturnal predators, meaning they evolved specifically to hunt in low light. Their eyes contain a reflective layer called the tapetum lucidum that amplifies available light and gives them vision in near-total darkness that yours simply cannot match. You, on the other hand, are a diurnal primate. Your eyes are built for color vision in bright daylight. When the sun sets, your visual system degrades rapidly. Contrast detection drops. Peripheral motion becomes unreliable. The world goes soft and uncertain at exactly the moment your predators become most effective. This was not a minor disadvantage. This was the single most dangerous transition of every single day of your ancestors' lives. Researchers studying fossil records and predation patterns in early hominid sites have found direct evidence of this. Paleoanthropologist Lee Berger and his colleagues, examining bones at sites in South Africa, identified claw and bite marks on early Homo remains consistent with predation by large cats, specifically attacks occurring at the edges of shelter. In transitional light conditions, your ancestors were not safe at night. They were hunted at night, and your brain learned that lesson so deeply, over so many hundreds of thousands of generations, that it wired the lesson directly into your neurology. Here is what actually happens when the lights go off. The moment your visual input drops below a certain threshold, your amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, shifts into a state researchers call hypervigilance. It does not wait for evidence of a threat. It assumes a threat. The default setting of your ancient brain in darkness is not neutral. It is alert. Neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux spent decades mapping the amygdala's fear response and found something that explains everything about why your rational mind cannot simply talk you out of nighttime anxiety. The amygdala receives sensory information and triggers a fear response faster than the information even reaches your conscious awareness. You feel afraid before you know why you are afraid. The feeling comes first. The thought comes second. This is not a flaw. This was the entire point. An ancestor who hesitated, who waited for their conscious mind to evaluate whether the sound in the darkness was actually a threat, died before they could pass on their genes. An ancestor who felt fear immediately, who flinched and froze and woke the group, survived, and survived, and survived again, until surviving became the reflex, and the reflex became you. Anthropologist David Geary, who studies the evolutionary origins of human cognition, describes this as a mismatch problem. Your brain was shaped by an environment that no longer exists. The threats that calibrated your fear response, the leopard, the hyena, the absolute darkness of the open savanna, are gone. But the calibration itself remains. running exactly as it was programmed, pointing its alarm at shadows that contain nothing. This is why darkness does not just feel threatening. It feels specifically threatening in ways that are consistent across cultures, across continents, across every human population ever studied. Children in rural Kenya, and children in urban Tokyo, and children in suburban Canada all show the same spike in nighttime anxiety at roughly the same developmental age. Not because their environments are similar, because their brains are the same. The fear of the dark is not learned. It is revealed. But here is where it gets stranger. It is not just the darkness itself your brain is reacting to. It is what darkness represents neurologically. Darkness means uncertainty. Darkness means your primary threat detection system, your vision, has been degraded. And your brain treats that degradation as a threat in its own right. Psychologist Arne Arman, whose research on fear conditioning has been cited in hundreds of subsequent studies, demonstrated that humans show faster and stronger fear responses to stimuli associated with ancestral threats than to modern threats, even when the modern threats are objectively more dangerous. People condition fear responses to images of snakes and spiders in a single trial. The same conditioning to images of guns and cars takes many more repetitions. Your brain has a preloaded list of things to be afraid of. Darkness is near the top of that list. And unlike the snake or the spider, darkness is not an object you can avoid. It comes every single night. So your brain evolved a secondary system to manage it. Homer! The relationship between early humans and controlled fire is not just a technological story. It is a psychological story. Researchers now place controlled fire use by early Homo at somewhere between 1 and 2 million years ago, with strong evidence of regular hearth use at sites like Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, dating to roughly 1 million years ago. Fire gave your ancestors light, but it gave them something neurologically more important than light. It gave them a boundary. The circle of firelight was the first safe perimeter. Inside the light, your visual system could function. Inside the light, your amygdala could partially stand down. The fire did not eliminate the darkness. It pushed the darkness back to a distance your brain could tolerate. And here is the part that should make you stop for a second. When you turn on a light in a dark room, you are doing exactly what your ancestors did when they fed the fire. The technology is different. The neurology is identical. You are not illuminating a room. You are drawing a circle of safety. You are pushing the darkness back to a distance your ancient brain can accept. The light switch is just a very fast fire. Think about every behavior you have around darkness that you have never examined too carefully. Sleeping with the door cracked, leaving a light on in the hallway, checking behind the shower curtain, glancing into corners, waking at 3 a.m. and lying still, listening. None of these behaviors make logical sense in a modern apartment or a locked suburban house. All of them make perfect evolutionary sense in the body of a small, slow primate on a dark savanna with predators that can see what you cannot. You are not being irrational. You are being ancient. Neuroscientist Matthew Walker, in his research on sleep and human evolution, notes that the transition from darkness to sleep represented one of the most vulnerable moments in early human life. The period of falling asleep, when consciousness was fading and the body was going still, was exactly the window predators learned to exploit. Your brain developed an entire suite of microarousal responses specifically to interrupt this transition and scan for threats. The light sleeper was the survivor. This is why you wake at small sounds in the night. This is why your heart rate spikes when you hear something you cannot identify in the dark. This is why children, whose fear regulation systems are still maturing, experience nighttime terror at rates that seem completely disproportionate to the safety of their actual environment. Their brains are working correctly. They are running ancient software on a modern world. And that software does not turn off. Not completely. Not even in adults who intellectually understand every word of what you have just read. Because the amygdala does not respond to arguments. It responds to data. And in every night, the data it receives is the same data it has always received. The light is fading. Visual input is degrading. The perimeter is uncertain. Threat assumed. Stay alert. You will feel it again tonight. That small, quiet pull at the back of your mind when the room goes dark. And now you will know exactly what it is. It is not a malfunction. It is a memory. 2 million years old. Perfectly preserved. Running in the background of the most sophisticated brain on the planet. still watching the shadows, still listening for the sound that doesn't belong, still waiting for the sun to come back up, just like it always has, just like you always will.